Yeah, it certainly felt a lot more natural today I think, for all concerned. The players looked and felt like they, were just customising themselves in a better way to the environment, to the locker room, certainly to the field as well. Just little things like working out what type of boots or cleats that need to be worn. It's a slightly different surface in the way that it acts to maybe a few that we've been on so far. And all of those things are going to hopefully pay dividends when we open up on May the 1st. As far as preparations, guys are in a good place. Pretty healthy group. Certainly a mentally focused group. And we're obviously hoping we can put in another sterling display in maybe, the way things are going, maybe the most difficult environment, certainly in terms of how Galaxy have started, and where they sit in the Western Conference is going to be a hell of a challenge.
Thank you, Coach. We'll now open the room for questions. We'll kick it off with Tim Sullivan.
When you look at what the Galaxy have been able to do already this year, you just alluded to it a little bit. Obviously, Chicharito, one of the biggest threats from the 9 position in the league. How are they getting it done, and how don't give away his secrets here, but what's your plan for kind of taking care of it?
Yeah, look, they've started off very brightly. When you look at their style of play, especially at home, very, very positive, creative and attacking edge to that group. And Greg's always had very good footballing teams. There's a lot of similarities in the way that they build and some of the technical and possessional aspects of the game, as you might well imagine, of course. But they've got some very creative and effective forwards that I think have certainly got off on the right footing. Have found the back of the net quickly. That's I think, given not just the attacking players but the whole group a hell of a lot of confidence. And in terms of what we need to be able to produce, again, without going too deeply into any tactics, the mindset and the general philosophy of the group won't change an awful lot. I think we've done a wonderful job in the 7 away games of limiting teams, certainly in open play, being able to manage periods of the game and feel as though we have an opportunity ourselves. And of course, over the course of these 7 games, we've created some nice moments. We've been an attacking threat, and I think that keeps the home team on their heels.
Thank you. Greg Hills with the next question.
Yeah, Gary, good to see you. Wanted to ask you about as you're closing in on this game to end this part of the season, as you get ready for May 1st. Obviously, a big part of that, as you said, was closing in on playoff position and being in that spot. You've had 11 points on the road, and that's a pretty tough task. You're playing 8 games straight. Is this game, as you go into May 1st, is there maybe a bit of a disappointment for you if you don't get the points to bring you into the top 7, or are you going to, if you're able to get those points, win or draw, are you able to kind of tip your hat to yourself and your guys and say, well done, we've done what we had to do?
Yeah, I think to your point, 11 points on the board, was always going to be a stretch, especially the opponents and the challenges that we were going to face. And the unknowns, of course, when the seasons start, are always, what are those points totals going to be to see you in and around that top 7. The hope always was that we would put enough points on the board, whatever that might have been, to be in a competitive world and not put too much pressure on some of these home games that are coming up quickly to say, look, you have to win those games. You've got to be, bagging all 3 points for the next 4 games. Otherwise, you're in a difficult spot. I think the players have, certainly from the points tally view, have done an incredible job of bagging the amount that we have. And I think they've also done an incredible job with the way that they've conducted themselves, with the way that they've performed, and certainly with the displays that we've showed on the road. If things don't go our way this weekend, we will be just as disappointed as we are any other weekend. I don't think to that degree anything changes. The fact that we've put ourselves in a competitive position was always uppermost in everyone's mind. Where will that leave us at the end of this weekend? Should we draw a blank? I can't be sure, but I think it'll be in and around that sort of 8th or 9th spot, I should imagine. But the challenge, of course, is to keep this unbeaten run going. It's to, put a question mark over the home team and not allow them to create any distance between us and them. There's always loads of challenges, but I think the biggest one for us will be to really pit ourselves against one of the best teams, certainly in these early stages, in the Western Conference. And away from home, on their home field, it's not going to be an easy task, but we've had some really tough challenges, and I'd like to think that the guys are looking forward to it.
Thank you, Coach. We'll continue with Ben Wright.
Yeah, Gary,
Oh,
obviously,
sorry,
at this point you guys are used to traveling and kind of the rhythm of flying in and playing, but I'm wondering if back-to-back trips to California does anything different this week, if it complicates it just with the longer trip, and if so, how do you plan to account for that?
Yeah, I think the challenges were always going to be that, long journeys, time changes, the fact that we're leaving a little bit earlier to get ourselves over to the West Coast and try and acclimate a small amount. They were always going to be the difficulties that the side were going to face. Look, all I can say at this point is the group have done a wonderful job of not only meeting the challenge on the field, but also the challenges off the field with the travel. We do have a good group. There is opportunity to rotate. Those questions, of course, are raised regularly about, getting the right players on the field at the right time. And, of course, there's more competitive areas than some in the group that maybe can be moved around with not an awful lot of change to the way that the group's going to function. So they're all the questions that I've got to answer. Will it be difficult? Yes. Will it be a challenge? Absolutely. The fact that it's the last one of 8 now, I think will give the guys a little bit more of an incentive to finish off on a good note.
Team Sullivan with the next question.
Kind of on that note, Gary, do you guys see the light at the end of the tunnel even more than you did a week ago at this time in terms of this long road trip? And then, secondly, because you guys haven't played in the Western Conference yet, through nobody's design, I don't think, but this is the first time that Davis played his former team. Obviously, you had that with Anibal last week. What do you kind of go through with those guys to make sure that they either are emotionally up for it, or maybe that they have some sort of insight for you guys in terms of how that team's going to play?
To the first part of your question, I know personally, I'll be very pleased to see the back of a plane and getting on and off those flights week in, week out. I don't think anyone will feel any different about that. There's something very nice about being in your own bed the night before a game, coming to your home stadium, and of course coming here for our home opener in front of a packed house will be an incredible feeling. So, to have 8 away games under our belt, and fingers crossed in a competitive spot when Saturday's finally over, will certainly be a nice feeling. As far as players playing against old teams, groups that they've been involved in. Of course, the timelines are important. You know, how long ago was it? What are the personnel like in terms of, you know, what we can find out, what we can glean from the coach, possibly, if it's still the same coach. But to be perfectly honest, I think the biggest incentive for those players is the fact that it is a team that they've played for. It normally inspires players to go back and do well. Dependent on the type of time they've had there, that can be just a very competitive feeling. It'd be nice to come back here and do well, or maybe something a little bit nastier. I don't know if they've not had a very good time.
Right here with the next question.
Gary, I wanted to, obviously, as to Tim's question, you know, when you're playing, you know, new teams, that's getting a chance to not just get acclimated and get a chance to know what that team's about, but obviously the field, you know, the stadium, the trip going there. Coupled with that is obviously your experience going into May 1st and playing the home games. What's the calendar like for you as a coach, and maybe your experience as a player to get used to, you know, going to the stadium, playing on the surface, making it that home and making it feel that way? Is it as soon as you're in, or does it maybe take a little bit longer to get comfortable into your new home?
Well, days like today, I think, serve everyone well. Not only for the minor details that I've already mentioned about the playing surface and what type of boots or cleats the lads might wear. I think they get an idea of the depth of the stadium, the ball travelling. It can be very different in the stadiums that you play in, and to, you know, to pick up that more natural feel of how the ball's going to move and what that represents. The dimensions. You know, there are differences around the league of field sizes, etc. But I do think the main and most important purpose in any of the home games is, of course, the fans and the atmosphere and the pressure of being at home, because there is a different pressure. Will it be that the guys get off to a flyer immediately? Only time will tell on that one, but I'm sure there'll be some nerves and there'll be some anxious individuals to do well. But as long as that morphs into a positive feeling, positive energy, you know, to get that feeling of 30,000 plus people, home fans, you know, getting behind you again will be great for the group. And certainly a far different feel to the last 7 games, 8 games it will be of the opposing fans baying for your blood, basically. So I'm sure it will be a game or two before the fans and players and coaches and staff feel like, you know, this is natural to us and you know, that home field advantage. But the sooner we can get off to a good start, obviously, the better.
One final question from Galio.
Thank you. Gary, this spring you talked about the next game, but I guess we're all caught about obviously the atmosphere of coming home on May 1st. When you look at the guys and talk to them about it, is it difficult to have them really set up on the next game instead of thinking about May 1st? And does it add extra pressure on them because they have to be here before 30,000 of their own fans?
Yeah, no, it's a good point. I think days like today, as I've said, they tend to be helpful in terms of the facility, the field, you know, finding our way around and making it feel a little bit more natural and, you know, helpful to any preparational process. But yes, it can be a little bit distracting because when you're here and you're looking at the stadium, you're trying to envisage 30,000 people screaming and hoping for success, of course. The opening day will be exciting. It will be amazing. It will be a wonderful atmosphere. There'll be loads of analogies that we can use closer to the time. But I do think the players have done a wonderful job of keeping each challenge, each away game, in its own box. last week. We knew there would be particular challenges against San Jose, and I think we all identified them very, very well, and that helps, of course, in the process of earning points. As long as we can do the same for LA Galaxy, if we can be clear and concise about the difficulties that we will face, the importance of certain aspects of our own game. The players are I think in a really good groove at the moment, and I don't think it will be tough for them to stay in that lane for this last away game, and then look forward to the opener on May the 1st. But to your point, I think when you're here, it's easy to shift gears a little bit.